we haven't covered this yet, but
I'm sorry.
You were a working girl.
Yes, I was a prostitute. Yes. Yeah, I was. I had been for almost 10 years at that point.
Okay. How old were you?
I had just turned 30. My birthday is December 9th, so I just turned 30.
You had just turned 30. Wow.
Yeah.
So you started when you were 20?
21.
Wow.
Almost 21.
Okay.
Yeah. And so working the streets, right? I started off in the Bay Area, in Oakland, a little bit in San Francisco. Then we went to LA, San Diego, Vegas, a little bit in Denver, and then the internet became, Craigslist became a thing, or was a thing, and then Backpage, and then Arrow's Guide, and so that's what I was doing, internet and the streets. If the internet was slow, I worked also in Phoenix. I hate Phoenix. It's so hot there. It's the worst place to work on the streets. DC, Virginia, Maryland, the DMV, as they call it, Miami.
Wow. What was the best place to prostitute? I would imagine Miami.
Miami was good.
Yeah.
Miami was good. The DMV was good for me because I'm Black, and so it was just a different vibe there.
Yeah.
It was just easier place to make money, because there's places where, white girls, are gonna fare better, and so
I always one of the crazy things I never understood, which I think is so silly, is that prostitution's illegal.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the dumbest things. It might even be dumber than drugs.
Yeah.
Because, there's at least there's a case to be made that people can do drugs and get behind the wheel of a car and kill somebody or but prostitution, there's no victim. It's the oldest profession.
There's not supposed to be a victim, but
right. If it's done right.
Yeah.
It's the oldest profession.
Yeah.
And it's illegal unless you turn a camera on, then it's porn and it's legal.
Right. Right.
It's so stupid.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And maybe there would be less exploitation of the people that are, forced one way or another to find themselves in that occupation. Yeah. So yeah, I think Miami probably best place, DMV as well. So yeah, I was working there. We had been in Miami for a year and a half maybe before I met John. And so I go out, reluctantly I go out. Now it's after midnight, so it's December 14th, 2012. And I go to a place called Mango's. That was kind of the night spot. Clevelander was kind of shutting down. So this is on Ocean Drive. I'm sorry, Ocean Drive, for anyone not familiar with Miami. And I was sitting outside of Mango's and decided that me and my girlfriend, or the other girl that was working for my pimp, that we were going to go to Fort Lauderdale to the casino, to the Hard Rock. And so we leave, and I actually happened to park our car across from the Beacon Hotel, which I don't normally park over there, but that's where we were parked. So that's where we were walking to. And I actually saw John standing outside of Johnny Rockets, talking to a worker there. And when I passed him, we made eye contact, and I smiled at him and nodded, and I kind of sized him up really quickly, he doesn't have any money and he doesn't look interested.
He looks like a bum.
Yes, I did, right? Because
that's so funny.
I was how wrong I was, but yeah, that's what.
So funny.
That's how I sized him up, and so we proceed to get to the Beacon Hotel, and that's when the night manager comes out, and we've chit-chatted before, just asking him, what's going on tonight, who's in town, are the police out harassing girls, just trying to get a feel for what's happening, that night. And while we're talking, he happens to look down and he says, well, that guy is down there, yeah? And I was like, no, I don't know who that is. He said, well, that's John McAfee. And I'm like, okay, well, who's that? And he said, well, that's do you know the McAfee antivirus? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's the guy who created that. And so, immediately I was like, ooh, and, but I still was not sure that I wanted to. But anyways, I was just like, okay, well, let's just see what happens, right? So I go down, I'm walking back towards where he was, and he's now made it to the news cafe. And he was smoking a cigarette. And so while he was smoking his cigarette, I asked him for one just to kind of open up the conversation. And while he was lighting my cigarette, he asked me, you know, what are you girls out here doing, drugging and rolling old men? And I said, we don't use drugs. And so he was very intrigued by that response and invited us to have, you know, to sit and have coffee with him. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I went through the whole spiel of, you know, would you like, you know, some chocolate tonight, some vanilla, 2 for 1, or, you know, a little swirl. Whatever. Yeah. All the things just to get it out of the way. Yeah. Right. Because I'm with this girl. And so I have to, you know, give the appearance of trying to do business, else I could get in trouble with the pimp, you know, if I'm not teaching her the right thing. So anyways, we went through that, and he was like, I'm really not interested. I said, okay, well, what's your story? Who are you? What brings you to Miami, business or pleasure? And he was like taken aback by that. He's like, well, I've been in the news, you know, for like the past couple of weeks here, you know, especially here. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't watch the news. So who are you? He's almost insulted a little bit that I didn't know who he was. Mm-hmm. And so he just began to tell me, you know, his story of how he came to be in Miami and all of the things that I just relayed to you about his time in Belize. And so, not in such great detail that I've told you, but yes, and, you know, overall. And so he then also began to tell me about the girls, you know, the girls that he met. I'm not sure how the conversation shifted to them, but he was telling me about the girls, and that's when I learned about Amy and Samantha, just the more intimate things of him building houses for them and all the things he did for them. And so, you know, a couple of hours has passed by, you know, while we're having this conversation. But while we're sitting there, the way that the news cafe used to be set up was there was like a ground level, if you will, and then there was a lifted area where you came up the stairs.
The news cafe?
Yeah, the news cafe right there. They've remodeled it since. Okay. But so there was like a wall there. For that lifted part. And so he was sitting with his back to that wall. But while we're sitting there for these hours, he's watching very closely people that are walking by, people that are driving by. And so I picked up on that immediately because that's something that I would have to do, you know, being a working girl, right? You got to keep your head on a swivel and be just aware of your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And so, so there was, I would say that he was concerned. He was just trying to be aware of his surroundings. So I just made a mental note of that. I was very aware of that while he's telling me this story, you know. Right. And so he asked me if I could get rid of my girlfriend because she wasn't really adding much to the conversation. She was high on Molly, so she was, yeah. And so yeah, I told her that she could go ahead and leave, and so she did, and we hung out a little longer, and then he invited me back to his hotel, and we went to his room where he, so he goes in, and we're in his room, and he goes in the bathroom, and, you know, I'm looking around because I'm just nosy that way, whatever. And he comes out of the bathroom and he's like kind of nervously like rocking up and down on his tippy toes on the side of the bed. And he's like, would you mind if we just cuddled? And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, like what kinky sex thing is this? Because I've never heard of cuddling. So like, oh my God, trying to go through my Rolodex. So I was like, okay, whatever it is, I could figure it out. Right? Yeah, I could figure it out. So, but he just wanted to cuddle. And so we got in bed and he like wrapped himself tightly around me and laid his head on my shoulder, and he was asleep in like 5 minutes, snoring. And it was the best sleep ever. Yeah. And obviously other things happened, obviously. But not that night.
Oh, not that night.
No, not
yeah,
that.
That seems odd though, doesn't it? Like, what do you think that was about?
He was tired. And he just needed a good night's rest. Right. You know, like he just went through all of this life-threatening,
that he wanted
situation.
Somebody to cuddle with, to sleep next to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because he said, while he was in Guatemala, he could have women, and he had good coffee. He had all of those things, but he didn't
So
have
like
a good
a
cuddle.
woman was like the equivalent of a blanket for a normal person for him.
Right.
Like I can't go to sleep without my blanket and my pillow. He can't go to sleep without a woman.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Wild.
It was pretty cool, though.
That's wild. It's so wild.
So yeah, so in the morning he paid me the 5,000. I mean, 1,000. I'm sorry,
1,000 and fives.
He paid me 1,000 and the fives from the 5,000 that he had, and he was getting ready to go and do an interview with Fox News or somebody, and he said you can go down and have breakfast, and just charge it to the room, and then he said, "Will you be here when I get back?" And I was like, really? You want me to stay? Like, because we don't stay. We're not asked to stay, right? We're just, whatever.
One and done.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll stay. And so he left and I went down to have breakfast. And while I'm sitting, I'm just at the Beacon. So I'm sitting out front having breakfast and a taxi pulls up, parks right in front. And the driver gets out of the car and walks directly to me. And he says, hey, so you know John McAfee? And I'm like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. Who's that? And he's like, yeah, okay, well, can you just tell him that his cab driver's here? And I was like, well, I don't know who John McAfee is, so I can't help you. And he's like, okay, well, just tell John McAfee that his cab driver is here. My cab's right there, and I'll be here, when he needs a taxi. And I was like, I'm sorry, I really can't help you. I don't know who you're talking about. And so, so now I'm on guard, and I'm a little spooked because nobody knew that I was with him, except for the night people, and who, for me, like why would someone know who I am, right? And who is this taxi driver? And
so the dude who worked at the front door at the hotel knew who you were, though, right?
Right.
At night.
Right. And so this is now the next morning.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, and it would have been long after shift change, right? So the night people would not have been there either. And so this, definitely spooked me. So when John came back, I told him about this cab driver, and he was like, I don't have a cab driver, so I don't even know who that would have been, And so he told me, though, that there was a table of people that he wanted me to go down there and just check them out and see what I thought about them, because when he was coming back to the hotel, he spotted them. I don't know what about them concerned him, but he sat down with them and he said, well, I want you to see if one of them is the cab driver, the guy that came and told you that he was my cab driver. So I was like, okay. So when I went down there, there was nobody there. And so I went back up there to the room, and he's like, okay, well, we're going to go out for lunch. So we went out to Lincoln Drive, where, all the restaurants and all the things are over there. And we were kind of just walking around, and we decided to sit and get a bite to eat. And John, while we're sitting there, John is kind of just pointing out people to me, and he's like, okay, look at that guy. He's got a weapon in his front pocket, or he's got a weapon. Look at his ankle. And he's showing me what to look for on these people. And then there was someone that had walked by, and I remember he grabbed a butter knife, because that was all that he had for a weapon, and kind of tucked it, in his sleeve on his lap, and it was kind of like at ready, So I don't know now what's happening, but I do know, okay, the taxi cab driver was super weird. I do know the night while we were talking, in front of the news cafe, he was just watching people intently. So I need to be on guard here. I don't know what's going to pop off, but I need to be ready for whatever it is.
And the only threat, the perceived threat, is still Belize government.
For him, yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
And so, so we're sitting there, we have our lunch, and while we're sitting there, I'm not sure because the Lincoln Drive is like this long stretch, and then there's like streets that run parallel, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of sitting in the middle, but I can see a road ahead of me, and there was this SUV that just kept circling around, and it was the same SUV because it was the same driver, and I made John aware of that. And so he decided that we were going to go back to the hotel, and he decided that we should go and change hotels. So we ended up in Fort Lauderdale at the Four Seasons or something. Anyways, that's not that important. But we just moved locations, just to distance from, where we were. And spent a couple of days together. And then John said, I have to go. I'm going to go to Tennessee, but I'm going to call you, and I want you to come and meet me there. And so, I thought this was it. It's over, whatever. This is probably the last time I'm going to hear from him. But he indeed did call me.